Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today, you guys, we're going to do something a little different. Today, we're going to talk about characters we didn't necessarily like that much, but in books that we enjoyed. All right. So it sounds a little negative for this channel, but we're going to put a twist on it. We're going to make it good. It's going to be okay. Let's start by saying, y'all, please subscribe to the channel. Please welcome your friends to subscribe to the channel too, because it matters. Does matter, and it's all free content here at the channel. Please subscribe. We do book stuff here at this booktube channel. The Sandy Says Read channel is usually about books, book reviews, book stuff, all the bookish things. And today we're going to talk about characters in books, characters we didn't necessarily love. This is prompted by an article I read in the March-April issue of Writer's Digest. How much glare is there? Oh yeah, lots of glare. Sorry. But there you go. The March-April issue of Writer's Digest includes an article from, hold please, I got it. Okay, Sarah J. Sover. She wrote an article, Love to Hate Them, 4 types of unlikable characters and how to make them work in your writing. So I want to kind of discuss a couple of ideas that she had in this article and apply them to characters that we have read. I did a review and discussion of Leigh Bardugo's The Familiar on this channel not too long ago. I'll put a link to that in the drop-down box below so you guys can watch that review if you haven't seen it already. I enjoyed the book. I did not like I didn't like any of the characters in this book. I didn't connect with any of the characters in this book. There was one in particular, the villain, who was just deliciously villainous. Okay. I loved to hate the villain in this story. So when I was reading this article where Sarah says, you know, love to hate him, I immediately thought of Victor in this story, Victor de Paredes. He is just villainous. You want him to die by the end of this book, right? And in this particular discussion, we're going to be giving away some spoilers. He does not die at the end of the book, okay? Unfortunately. Well, that's not really a good way to say it. Are you ready for the spoiler? If you don't want to be spoiled, you guys, click away now. Click away now. Okay. He does die at the end of the book, but it's not through the means that you want it to be through, okay? I mean, he does not die at the hand of our protagonist. Like, our protagonist doesn't get to, like, drive a sword through him or burn him at the stake, which is what I wanted to have happen. I wanted our main character to be able to go up to this villain and just throttle him, right? I wanted that to happen, and it didn't. But he did die a lonely, sad, pathetic death in his bed, which is fine. That's fitting enough. Okay. All that to say, Leigh Bardugo did a great job of writing a villain that I could just root against and that I could just hate with every fiber of my being. She did an awesome job with that. So what I want you guys out there to think about as we're going through this video, as we're going through this discussion, what author has written a character so villainous that you were excited to see that character die? Or what author has written a character so villainous that you wanted that character to die? What character have you rooted against so hard that you were excited by it? I mean, what author has done that great trick for you? I want you to think about that. I want you to share that in the comments below. I don't want us to turn this video into, oh, I hated such and such characters. I don't want it to be that negative. I want to hear what authors have done such a good job making you hate a specific character. Now, I did say kind of a negative thing in that I didn't really root for any characters in this book. I didn't like our main character, Lucia. I just didn't root for her. I didn't care what happened to her. It was all okay, whatever. That's a shame. And she is one of the characters I think that Sarah is talking about in her article here. And we can discuss that a little bit. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to come across as a negative booktuber here today. That is not That is not the point of this video. The point of this video is to talk about just how fabulously awful Victor de Paredes was in this book. So let's dive into that a little bit by first looking at Sarah's article. I want to call out just a little ways into the article. She says, characters we love to hate are plentiful. There are many aspects to character development, and likability is only one way to hook readers. You can make an unlikable character work, but that means paying attention to other aspects of the story in order to ensure that your readers are able to connect. And I'm going to say, I think that Leigh Bardugo did that brilliantly in this story. I didn't really connect with any of the characters. I didn't care that much about Lucia. I didn't find her a likable character. I certainly didn't like the people around her who were using her and manipulating her and using her gift, right? I didn't like that. I didn't like that people kept using this character. So I didn't like any of the characters really, but I liked the story and I wanted to know what was going to happen next throughout the story. There were a couple of characters. There was a girl named Tadoa. I can't remember exactly her name. Did I write it down for you guys? I did not. Okay, but there was a character who had a gift of foresight. She had an angel who would tell her things that were going to happen, like a prognosticator, right? So this little character, I kind of liked her. I thought she was a reasonable character, but I don't know, she seemed, well, she was a liar, okay? She pretended to be something that she wasn't, okay? And she got everyone else into trouble doing that, okay? And she ran away and left Lucia in a prison situation for the Inquisition to torture, torment, and burn at the stake. Okay, I did not love that character, all right? But she was better than the others, I'll put it that way. So I did find one sort of kind of redeeming character in this book. So there were, as Sarah points out, there are different ways that you can make a character likable and unlikable. But if you have a character who is unlikable, a main character who is unlikable, the story can save it. The story can keep the reader going. And I think that happened. That's what happened in this book, The Familiar. I wanted to see how the story turned out. I wanted to see how things ended. I wanted to see the villain get killed off. I wanted to see the main character. I wanted to see Lucia destroy him. And that didn't really happen. But yeah, I enjoyed the story, and the story is what kept me in here. So let's talk a little bit about Victor and just how well Leigh Bardugo made Victor villainous, horrible, and awful. Let's talk about that. And let's see, I wrote down some traits of Victor. He is a nobleman. He has exceptional luck. And the whole reason he has this exceptional luck is because he has cursed, his family has cursed this fellow named Santangel. Santangel is the familiar. He is the one who has been literally cursed to stay with the De Paredes family. He must stay with them always. If he leaves their side for a night, like if he's away from them, if he leaves them for a night, in the morning, he will die. He turns to ash, he dies, like a vampire on the wind, right? He dies. So he must stay with them or die, cease to be. So he has been with this family for like 500 years, for all these generations. Each time that a son is born into this family, that son grows into almost a monster, keeping Santangel tied to the family. In these children, these boys, they grow up telling Santangel, hey, maybe I'll release you from this curse. And they never do. So he is always tied to this family. And it's a shame. It's sad. But Victor, he's perpetuating that curse. He's keeping that curse going. Now, even though he is keeping that curse going, there is one moment in the story where he seems to have, I don't want to call it a redeemable moment, but he seems to have a moment of almost humanity to him. That is the moment when he has his wife at this tournament and he is kind to his wife. He shows her kindness. It surprised me as a reader to see him acting kindly toward his wife, treating her with kindness, with this modicum of decency. It surprised me. But in Sarah's article, we see a comment about giving even these irredeemable characters a moment of humanity. Oh, let's see, where is it? Bigots, perpetrators of heinous crimes, and other characters who are too far gone for any well-adjusted reader to root for. The characters who fall into this group aren't meant to be likable, but they are meant to be captivating in some way. We skip a little bit. Giving an unsavory character a selfless or compassionate moment is often applied to other narrative styles, blah, 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 but the irredeemable, having such a moment could create an unsettling paradox in the mind of the reader, right? Okay. It can add a dimension to the character's personality, but is unlikely to make them wholly likable. And it did not make Victor likable at all when he was kind to his wife, when he showed her this moment of kindness. It did not make him likable. It surprised me. And as Sarah points out, it created an unsettling paradox in the mind of the reader. And it really did. I was surprised. I was surprised that he brought his wife to the tournament. I was surprised that he was kind to her. It was surprising because he has a mistress on the side, okay? And he is rude to that mistress. He's rude to everyone. He's Mr. High and Mighty. It was just surprising, okay? It did create that paradox in my mind. It did not make him likable at all, which is fine. He wasn't supposed to be likable. He was supposed to be a cretin. We were supposed to root against him, and we did. Let's see, I put some notes out here. Yeah, Victor is kind and delicate with his wife at the tornado. And Godric is a character in one of my novels, in my series. And he is despicable. He is a bigot. He is rude. He is awful. He is mean to his son. He's terrible. I hate him. And the reader hates him. But Godric is affectionate and protective of, he's affectionate too, and he's protective of his daughter, Kaylin. That is his only redeeming quality, is that he is protective of Kaylin. But even that can't save him. Let's go to page 267. If I can get there. Okay, this is during the tournament. Victor has acted as a patron to Lucia so that he can basically use her little magics and get ahead in society. This is his goal, is to get ahead in society. And because of that curse, he is filled with luck. He's always lucky, right? So far, everything's been going his way. And he recognizes that Lucia and his familiar have started a bond, a relationship, and he wants to put a wedge in that because he's a cretin. Okay, so Don Victor stood in the dark hallway, his black cloak fading into the shadows so that his long face seemed to float in the gloom. That's perfect, right? Okay. She recoiled. This is Lucia. She recoiled, hiding her body behind the door, conscious of the thin fabric of her nightclothes and what her undress implied. I was expecting Doña Valentina, she lied. He studied her with cold eyes. Santangel is running an errand for me. I thought it best you keep your thoughts on the task ahead. Then he knew, as Donna Di had. Had Santangel told his master, or had it been his master who commanded this seduction in the first place? The thought caught like a hook beneath her ribs. It should have left her in despair, but it only made her angry. Be prepared to ride out early tomorrow, he stated. Has the location of the third trial been revealed? He ignored the question. Perez's position with the king is even more precarious than I understood. But this will not all be for nothing. Tomorrow you will be extraordinary, so extraordinary that the king will not care who found this treasure, only that you are a vein of ore so rich you must be mined. Perez will be of no concern to us. Do you forget Fortune Donna Di, Signor? His gift is as great as mine, maybe greater. God's power is all that matters here. But he didn't mean God. He meant Santangel and the luck that had always served them. I will do all that I can. Do you understand the sword above your head? It hangs above your aunt's neck, too. Lucia struggled not to show her surprise. Had Don Victor always known that she and Juanit were kin? I can strip her of respectability, he continued. And he goes on. Basically, he is there to threaten Lucia the night before this big trial that she has, right? This third trial where where the contestants of the tournament are going to be showing off their little magics for the crowd. He's there to threaten her and let her know, look, if you screw this up, you're doomed, and I will doom your aunt as well. He's just a cretin, and he has always been. Okay. And over on page 336, we have had a series of events, as you do by the end of a book, right? We've had a series of events that have put Lucia is in prison. She is going to burn at the stake for having these little magics. And Santangel, who wanted to help her escape, he is now in his own little prison. Victor, you know, he can do whatever he wants with Santangel. He is his familiar. And he has put him in this little, like, dirt coffin under his house. He's got him imprisoned there for a few days, and he hasn't given him any water or any food. Now, Santangel cannot die. He won't die because of this. He will just, I want to say he will reconstitute himself. He will heal himself because of the magic between the two of them, right? This curse that keeps him alive. When he comes out of that coffin, out of that dirt, out of that prison, Don Victor is talking to him and telling him basically that his love interest, Lucia, is in prison and she's going to burn at the stake. And we should probably try to save her and bring her here to this house where we can keep her and use her magic. Because all Don Victor is interested in is using other people. And on page 336, it says, Santangel says, you still hope to secure her gifts as your own. Of course he did. Victor saw and wanted and claimed. He didn't know what it was to be denied. And that sums up this horrible, evil villain. What he sees and wants, he just takes. He just takes what he wants. And that is Victor de Paredes, whom I hated. And Leigh Bardugo did an awesome, fabulous job of making that villain totally unlikable, of making us love to hate him. And I applaud her for that. I think that was great. Summing up Sarah J. Sover's article, she says, make the reader feel something. And Leigh Bardugo did. She made me feel just absolute animosity for Victor. She says, where some may say that a character needs to be likable, I say that the sure way to kill a story is to make the reader indifferent. Okay, well, let's come back to that in a second. Even rude and vile characters need to be interesting. Otherwise, there's nothing to make the reader care. Okay, now, I have read a couple of books recently, and I've talked about a few books here on the channel recently where I didn't really care that much about the main character. I didn't get into the main character. Like in the book Funny Story, I didn't really care that much about the characters. Oh my gosh, I can't remember their names. Yeah, okay, here we go. But the story was interesting to me. I liked what was happening to the characters, okay? So I was indifferent to those characters, but I was interested in the story. The Three-Body Problem, I didn't care that much about most of the characters that rotated around the main character. I think her name was Shengwei, Ye Shengwei. That gal, I didn't like her. I was mad at her. She was betraying the earth and the people of earth. I was angry with her. I didn't like that. But I felt something, okay? The reader, the author made me feel angst and disappointment and frustration with that character. So I felt something. In Leigh Bardugo's novel, most of the characters I was indifferent to. I was intrigued by the story. And boy, howdy, I felt something toward Victor. And that was angst, that was animosity, that was deep-seated hatred. I wanted to see him burn, okay? So there you go. You guys, I put it to you. Here's my question for you guys who've been listening along. What author out there has done just a great job of making an unlikable character that you could root against? What author out there has built a villain that you found so deliciously villainous that you just loved it, that you thought it was great? What villain has carried a story for you? Tell us in the comments below. Let's have a conversation. Let's enjoy this. And thumbs up for villains we can root against. Thank you so much for tuning in.